Other. These.
No, that's going to run separately. She's
Sure.
going to be going on a cruise. Family for 10 days, or should be home. It's cruise is 7 days.
This is how it goes.
Fantasy believes about the world and all.
Right, we're live. Did you call us to order?
Yes, I did.
Good, thank you. Thank you for making the time to meet, and I sent the plan per se. And today, Jennifer Griffith and I sorted out the budget of, just making sure things were balanced in terms of the priorities that we said we wanted to do and how much we would pull from each of those funds to be able to do it. And we looked at salary increases when we took those things that we carried over from last year. We looked at them also for 24-25 to be able to make sure that we had all the pieces and parts together. Basically, it's a more of a statement course plan from what we had in our earlier student investment account and the way that we spent our high school success money. And so, while some specific items will change, especially in the area of Carl Perkins and CTE requests, a lot of the other things will not. And so it's a continuation based on the goals we put together. So it's the alignment of our board goals, superintendent goals. So it packages it all together. Is what it does. I can make copies of the budget pages if you want to see those. Those will be posted online. I can tell you about amounts of money, but really it's about the heft of the plan. What happens after this tonight is if it is approved, then I will move forward with doing the cut and paste upload into the state's website to be able to make sure that we have everything where it needs to be. Once they receive it, then they will start moving back and forth with us in terms of, you said this, what does it really mean? We found something, or I found something in Kings Valleys that I don't believe there are Carl Perkins money fund. And so we put that in there because that's what their board agreed to. But I have let them know that piece of information so that we know that we'll get some of those things around. But that's where we are. So I'm open to entertaining questions, comments, thoughts.
So the draft that you sent us via email here is what we're looking at now.
Yep.
Haven't made any changes since you sent the draft out.
No, the only thing that has come in is a couple of misspellings that some people noticed.
Okay.
And but sorry about that, but nothing that substantively changed its information and its the general content. I did choose to put in some of the specific information on page 7. I put in the enrollment information so that could be seen. I also put in on page 8 our and Brad, I'll send you a copy of this. The percentages of Hispanic students in the district, and then the percentages of different races. We are a white community at 89.8% of our students being white, but we've got 8.14% who are mixed race, nominal in a number of the other categories, and we've got 9.45% Hispanic students. And so that gives us kind of the layout. I also looked at information around our divide of males versus females, and non-binary students. So we put all of that information in. Our current economically disadvantaged as based on our free and reduced lunch count. Our percentage of current English language learners, our percentage of known homeless students, those students on the 504 plan, and those students in special education. So it gives us an idea of some percentages across the district.
Special ed, is 504 part of special ed or is it separate?
I counted them separate because the 504 plan, while it's legally binding, it doesn't have all the meeting sequences and the signatures and all those.
So
kinds
you
of things.
combine those percentages, we have 17.65%.
Right.
504 for special ed.
And the 504 part really has to do with language, experiencing some life altering concern. So it might be that a student who has attention deficit would qualify to be filled with a 504, but wouldn't necessarily need some of the specially designed instruction as part of the special education package. Same thing could be true for students experiencing anxiety. Might not be to a degree of special education where there's a need for specially designed instruction, but there's a limit to life activity based on disability. So it's kind of a fine line and a broad chasm.
Sure.
We've got some graduation information, and it's interesting that when we look at the information, we have Philomath High School in this last year had a graduation rate of 89.16% in a 4-year cohort. Philomath Academy was at 51.52, but when you look at a lower number of high school students and you look at 5 earning a GED as opposed to 1, and a GED completer counts as a 5-year completer, and so we can't include those in that 4-year cohort. You understand that we still have students being successful. It's just, it doesn't resonate in that percentage because of the way students are counted. And so we've looked at all of those to be able to make sure that we're real clear about where we go and what we do. On page 10, we had done for the student investment account at the top of that, information from this forest framework that takes a look at where we are as a district in terms of inclusive policy and practices, well-rounded, coordinated learning principles, stakeholder engagements, talent development, and leadership. And a 0 says that we are laying a foundation. We haven't done a lot. A 1 in the scoring says that we are installing. So we've got one of the attributes at least in place. Implementing says that we've got all the attributes in place, but it isn't yet to sustain. And so we went back and did it again. And this is the result from this year. And there are actually increases that we've seen. When you've got a 3-point scale, the increases aren't substantial, but there are increases across the board. I also included our peer summary of enrollment, our peer summary of expenditures per student, and our expenditure story that talks about where we have been with teaching FTE and where we've been with student enrollment. And you'll see that we actually have more FTE, even with a lower enrollment. And then we'll look at the teacher salary information. And then it really starts walking into the plan questions that the state is most interested in. Our target as a district is to be able to take the information in these questions that go to the state, but put it into a readable, comprehensive format or map that moves us forward in a way that is visible and used, as opposed to being in a notebook on a shelf. So that's kind of just the general setup for it. Who was all on your team that helps you prepare this? We had our administrators, we had a couple of. Career and technical education was a big part of it. Students, we got input from high school students in empathy interviews, so it was actually sitting and talking to them face to face as opposed to a survey. We've reached out to teaching staff. Let's see, who else? We've had some parent involvement. Most of that has been, we did the survey on the calendar. And we've gotten some special focus groups of emerging bilingual, special ed advisory. You say in here. Thing we didn't hear to talk about who. So students of color, students with disabilities, all the students, we picked a cross section of students to do about 30 empathy interviews across the Florham Academy and Florham High School and chose them as representatives of a variety of categories. So we would make that mix. Our counselors have been involved and our counselors are connected through the navigation of poverty and homelessness. Families of students of color, families of students with disabilities came through the special ed advisory committee. Family of students emerging bilinguals, that came through the emerging bilingual group. We didn't do well with families of students who identify as LGBTQ plus. Families navigating poverty, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. The board has talked about this. We've talked about our budget and its implications. We've had the Regional Educator Network to be able to look at other funds as a possibility. McKinney-Vento is Mike Nico. And then I've shared with the Chamber of Commerce, and we've I've been working with CTE, and I represent the Early Learning Hub, and we have some people who represent STEM to be able to do that. So we will need to, I would like us to be able to get back to a comprehensive survey, if you will, of our families in the next year to be able to make sure that we can update and move from there. Yes, please.
These are, I just have some like sort of little technical questions that are probably not super important, but in the district narrative, it talks about the increase or anticipated increase in population development.
Give the page number.
On page 7.
So,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I just wasn't sure. Do you know if those numbers are still accurate?
I don't know. That's where I need to reach out to the city. Though that's where they were when we wrote the last student investment account. So that was the plan.
Okay.
To be able to take a look at. And I know that at least not everything's been built in at least Mill Pond,
Right.
if not other places. So that is a place I would check.
Okay. And I know that's not super important to the grand scheme of things. I just that stood out. And then
Yep, that's good.
I had a question on the screen. This is just more from my knowledge on page 13. Under student attendance. First, you probably already caught it, but it just says the ability to complete school word.
Yeah, that got changed. That was one of the grammaticals.
Wonderful. And then it says some students, the whole thing about some students have chosen work over completion of school. I was just curious if you have any idea if that's like a statewide trend, because we're not the only district that had more flexibility during COVID for students to work. Do we know if that's just going to the state? Like, are they gonna be like, oh, that's interesting, and they're gonna be like, yeah, join the crowd?
The way that we looked at that and the way that it's made its way around across the state is in community college enrollment. Also, I mean, it was students that we lost.
Yeah.
And we had found out they were working.
Yeah,
And when it came time to come back to school, the working either for self-income or family income, or the experience of learning job skills. Made it easier for some to keep a work schedule than to come back to school, and be able to continue to do that. We also noticed in conversations, especially with Lisa Avery at LVCC, that the community college enrollment did with that note too. And a number of those same students were saying, why do I want to go to community college if I can go to work and make money? And I don't need to do that. And so now it's about how do we bolster all those possibilities. So no, we weren't alone in there.
I guess I just, I've not read one of these before. And so I trust that you know more sort of what the state is looking for than I do. I guess just some of it, like on page 16, under describe how you use this tool in your planning. That first paragraph, I don't really have any idea what that actually means. Just with like a lot of words.
The appendix, what they want us to do is
Yeah.
to look at an equity lens. And that's back at the very back in the appendix. I put the equity lens that we looked at.
Okay.
And what everything has a point of equity, and so they wanted us to be able to look through this lens. We need to refine it in that this was created a while ago, and it doesn't really necessarily ask the meaningful questions that we need to ask. And so it does need to be updated. Because the Oregon equity lens now exists,
Okay.
and we can ask questions based on that.
Okay.
So it's really looking at where does the Oregon equity lens come into play beyond what we were using. I don't know if that helps or not.
I don't know either. Okay. And I'll just keep scrolling real quick.
Okay.
I think, well, I just have one question on page 18 for the CTE programs at Kings Valley Charter School offers.
Yep.
Because I know they're building their new building, which has like animal husbandry and forestry and agriculture. So will those be new CTE programs, or those all just fall under like natural resource management?
The natural resources management is where they're looking to go.
Okay.
And so it would extend classes.
Okay.
Or courses, if you will, within that area of study.
Okay.
So I would also love for them to open up something new.
Okay.
Because they are getting more into the animal part of it,
Okay.
than what they've been.
Okay, but that's not active yet.
No, not yet.
And then on page 20, these are just, I think it's just two little formatting things, just for students at the elementary level experience the following learning opportunities, assuming language arts should be part of your rules.
Yeah.
And then same down below, electives, 6th grade, 7th, 8th grade should be part of the rules. For students at the middle school level.
Yes.
Okay. And I just have to say, I'm sad Jackson's not here, but on page 21, Under how do you ensure students have adequate time to eat coupled with adequate amount of time for movement and play at the bottom for high school. I think it's ambitious to say that half an hour provides enough time to eat as well as play or participate in intramural activities.
Oh, it is.
So there's a bold statement there. As a high school student that often did not eat lunch because I was doing lots of play and intramural activities.
Yeah, we,
Various, yes, yeah.
we talked about that, especially,
Frantically preparing for family.
we talked about that especially at, well, we talked about that at the high school, but the high school right now has got a, like a 5-minute early release incentive for certain students to be able to leave with lunch, which leaves them 35 minutes. The middle school for the longest time had 40 minutes, like the elementaries and the primary. Elementary and primary, we can't go any less than that, because at 20 minutes, you're still
Yeah.
eat, come on, eat. And that's one of the reasons that we've started to put, to institute recess before lunch. Because then I've played and I'm more likely to eat my lunch than eating my lunch and wondering when I'm gonna be able to get outside and play.
And I was always really thinking that my students to eat after lunch, finishing their lunch. It's fine, but like,
The middle school made the decision to be able to, 2 years ago, to be able to go to a half an hour lunch to shorten their day. And so what they've been finding is all the other schools feed breakfast to students when they come in first thing in the morning. So before school starts, the middle school doesn't serve its breakfast until it's morning break time. And as a result of that, they have the highest level of participation in breakfast at their school than any of the others, even the elementaries. And they find then that kids will eat a reasonable lunch and they'll inhale their lunch anyway. So they were finding that there were a number of students, because they don't break apart the time like the elementary level does. It's kind of like you have a half an hour or you have 40 minutes and you figure out when you come and go. And some of them will come in and inhale in 10 minutes and then they're off and outside. So it's always worth looking at, but no, it's not a lot of time, that's for sure.
And I'll just say that incentive program at the high school is actually close to a half an hour. Because,
Really?
yes, because
Like this.
Laura gets picked up for lunch at 11:46 on the days that she doesn't have to go to advisory, and at 12:12 on the days that she does. So
Okay.
pretty significant time for it. Not quite, but we're close. Don't make me do it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I
Sorry.
do remember that distinctly.
And we are looking at, as a part of this in terms of adequate time for movement and play. That brings into play, although it's not asked here, the responsibility for number of PE minutes in an instructional year, which we're going to struggle at elementary level, just because of space availability. It's not like we've got a gym available and a multi-purpose room available at the elementary school at the same time, because somebody's eating lunch or somebody's at break or something. And so the facilities are going to struggle. And so, our afternoon recess could become a little bit more structured. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities to think about, but a lot of this is we got to make sure that kids have time to be able to move. Great questions. All the way around.
I remember at one of our meetings, you had mentioned that we were trying to see if there was a way to get movement time counted for certain activities that are occurring during other sessions. So can you find out an answer to that?
We can do that. We just have to have, what we put in there in terms of a period of structure. So in looking at, for instance, our afternoon recesses at the school, they are monitored by the classroom teacher. Classroom teacher can teach PE. So if they have 3 or 4 different structured activities going, they can count that 15 or 20 minutes as activity PE time. But it wouldn't be that, you've got to limit to one thing and everybody's got to do that one thing.
Yeah.
But it can't just be, run and go do what you want. If that means sitting and reading a book, we can't count reading a book as PE. So.
Well, I was wondering, with Mr. Beaker, if he's including movement in his music classes, and I was thinking more than likely is, maybe not every single music class, but that was something I wanted to bring up.
That's
because
good.
He's such an incredible instructor. The kids love him so much, and I have a feeling he more than likely does incorporate some play and dance.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. As does, I'm sure, Haley at Columbus, who's the new person.
Yeah. Clemens, my kids are so much different than Clemens. I'm out of the loop on that one, I have to admit.
Page 8. Race and ethnicity, student population, and percentage of students.
Yep.
When I add it up, it comes to 109.45.
I figured that out.
Yeah, because the Hispanic is outside. Hispanic counts as an ethnicity. When you look at race, any student that is Hispanic also identifies for race. And so the American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian, Black, etc., those are all races. Hispanic is an ethnicity. So that's why I set that independent
Oh,
and apart.
that's why the gray line is
Yep.
underneath. it.
Yep.
Okay.
And also, well, I guess that's the full solution, but when I was doing a quick math in my head on it, also I was wondering if the mixed race percentage was added up again with some of the other percentages, because they would have likely had multiple answers to the question.
Right, and what I tried to do was take a look at, I looked at the percentage of students who identified as Hispanic and then took them off the chart. And so then all I had left was race to be able to play with, and anybody that had of the race categories more than one mark. I counted them as the mixed race or multiracial. But I'm sure we've got more that fall into that classification, and there are also not many, but there are a few that if you look at them, every box is checked. So,
And biological speaking, there is no such thing as race.
that's a whole other deal.
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
Take that one up with the state. That's your next shot. Let's state all of our. Shall we?
Oh, there are many.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but on page 9 for key success factors by grade.
Yep.
There's no 12th grade. I'm assuming that's just because 12th grade is graduation.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that's a section that I have a question about, and I feel like I may have answered or asked this before, so I apologize if that's the case, but. GED completers being counted as a 5th year completer.
Yes.
Even if they graduate early, they're counted as a 5th year completer or
In
finish their GED.
in their cohort. The cohort won't allow anybody that earns a GED, whether it's early or late, to be counted in that 4-year. If I graduate early. I can be a 4-year cohort completer. I can be counted in that. But I can't, the GED is just a different animal.
So then what's the difference between completed and graduated in that context? then?
Graduation refers in this to a high school diploma. Yeah, with its own credit
What
requirements.
does completed, just that they went to school for 4 years? Or
Graduation doesn't reference the GED. No,
There's a
but they're 5 years. Let me go back and look at the 4-year cohort completer.
because I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. No,
Especially
let me
because
look
the
at that.
numbers are nice and improving.
Well, if the Columbus Academy looks here,
Yeah, that's why I was wondering.
I
It's like-
wonder if it's cohort. Or not, but let me look that up and I'll report that. That's the one that I'm not sure of.
Cause that one was a puzzler,
Okay,
also, you know, GED should count in our over.
yeah,
Some of this sounds mandated by the state.
Yeah.
A lot of this.
We can't do anything about it today.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Last thing. Technically, there's an extra bullet point. Page 27. Very regular communication.
Tried to do some reading. To be able to go through them, but my eyes started to glaze when first out. Like I said, the intent for me and for our administrative group is to be able to, instead of just answering ODE's questions, because that's really what a lot of this is they just that sort of question. And when you try and do this and everything else in your job on top of it, I finally got to a point of saying, I would love the Cadillac, but right now I just got to answer the questions. And that's going to be what we'll do. And then we'll use our time through this spring to be able to round out and make it a plan that is that communicates well or better than answers to questions to the community and to students.
Do you see thing on the evidence of engagement where you're asked for your top 5 artifacts of engagement? So unless there's a line break, maybe making it look like.
No, what I did was I added in the goal agreement. I added in.
Okay.
I was trying to decide if I wanted to use the community engagement or the goal agreement one. So that's why they're both in here. They're not going to stop me from putting through this.
Well, you could combine community engagement and community-based partner inputs under one.
Yep. There we go. See, when we're done, I'm going to start doing an upload to see how long it's going to take me.
Oh my goodness. Hopefully the copy and paste will smooth process.
We tried to point out that this
It puts a lot of work on a lot of people's plate. And of course, it was interesting, being in a superintendent's meeting a couple of weeks ago where there's, a couple of superintendents, obviously in our area from larger districts were saying, some of you are having to do things that I don't have to touch because there's other people in my organization who touch that and complete that. And we kind of smiled and nodded. It is good to be able to go through and look at a comprehensive setup. To be able to make sure that you are on a track, everybody understands there are, which way the train's going and we're all going that direction. So there's great goodness in that. There's some of these that I look at the questions and I'm thinking, I don't know that that's the most relevant question that I want to ask to be able to know and encourage us, moving along the path we need to.
These are the questions you get. So
But these were the questions. So let's take what we've had to do, use what we can, and use it to move forward in a way that gives us almost like a strategic plan at the same time. So the nice part is we've got the goals meshed, so we're not, school goals, superintendent goals, board goals. That we've included the whole thing. For Kings Valley's submission, they are under our same goals. I'm glad I printed out their spreadsheet because I didn't save it. And fortunately, it's a small spreadsheet. But they've got different strategies or different activities that they're looking at to be able to do with their funding. So, and theirs is a continuation also. They're using funding to do some of the same things that they've done with their high school success money and their student success funds. Great.
Yes.
I move that we approve the Board of School District 17J alignment for student success integrated guidance plan.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this. And all those in favor? Opposed, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the hard, thanks to everyone, for all the hard work that went into preparing this.
I believe that we can adjourn the meeting now.
Yes, we can.
Okay. We can
All right.
adjourn.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Record time.
There's been a lot of meetings that have been. I will turn this out there to the board members. I was out at Logic last night. And they are not going to have done the dip anymore. But, well, the thing is, it's liability insurance and stuff. People bring in foods that are prepared in their home to be served to other people. It's supposed to be hot foods and they gotta be so hot and everything. So what they are gonna do is this year they're gonna have a taco bar before the auction.
Christopher's.
And that'll be on May 6th.
What is it?
May 6th.
Yeah, May 6th.
Oh, I know.
That's a Saturday.
Graduation. Oh.
So,
You guys eat tacos for me.
but I just
Okay, I
thought
actually go to my house. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
You know, this is an informal announcement to you guys, invitation. You'll be getting a formal invitation to it, so.
Thank you.
I might also be at a graduation.
I'm glad they're doing something again.
Yeah.
Bringing something
Well,
back.
and The Blunt Student Summit Community Club is under a huge turnover right now because of the older generation that's been there for a long time wants to retire.
Sure.
So there's a new people coming on and doing things, and so that's where they're at with that.
Which things happen at your program.
Huh?
The same thing just recently is happening at the program I run at work, because it's had like half of my artists going retirement. So I had to find new people to bring on board. So I'm very happy for them. And I was like, really? All at once?
Yeah.
Is this a me issue? There. It's before I started, so.
Yeah, they've got
I
some,
blame myself.
they've got some big interest. From some people,
Yeah,
who have stepped forward to want to pick up the.
Sarah Nelson, who used to be Sarah Dallas, is one of them, and Kirsten Rowley is another one, and she's a IA.
Yep.
Out there at Logic now, so.
Chris, can you think about this Senate Bill 1045 that's being proposed?
Which one is that?
It's the one that will restrict what school boards can do and put more power in the state.
The only thing I know about it is that I've heard of it, but my boss is in the house, not the Senate.
That's why
I didn't really interact with the house.
Pretending me that.
OSBA is against.
I was sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been
It takes away more of the local.
Yeah, it's a little bit like-
To the state,
Yeah.
and it basically gives the state a hammer, they can nail you with